India has always been important because of its sheer size. We're going to be exploring India's diversity, socioeconomic, environmental, religious, political, linguistic, in week 3. But for now, let's just consider the size of India in terms of its population. First of all, there are a lot of people in India, 1,325,000,000 and counting. India's population is continuing to increase by 1 person every couple of seconds. That's partly to do with a relatively high birth rate, but also to do with declining mortality, meaning that people are living much longer in India than they were decades ago, and the situation continues to improve. India has 4 times the population of the United States. There are more Indians than North Americans and Europeans put together, and there are more people living in India than the whole of Africa. In fact, 1/6 of the world's population lives here. And for further context, 1 in 8 people on planet Earth live in rural India. According to the UN, India's population growth rate means it will overtake China as the world's most populous country in 2022. That's just 6 years from now. And it's forecast to remain the largest country in the world in terms of population for the rest of the 21st century. Now, in terms of land area, India is also a pretty large country. It's the 7th largest in the world, 1.3 million square miles. But that's just 1/3 the size of America and only 1/10 the size of Africa. This means that India has one of the world's highest population densities, about 1,000 people per square mile. That's 3 times more densely populated than China and 12 times more than the United States. But of course, the population isn't evenly spread, and we'll be looking at exactly where people live in India, which parts of the country, urban, rural, and so on later in the course. New Delhi, where I live, is a vast, sprawling, pretty low-rise city by comparison to Mumbai, for example, which is much more densely populated and has a pretty high-rise skyline. Mumbai is also home to the most densely populated place in India, which is Dharavi slum, where perhaps as many as 1 million people live in less than 500 acres. We'll be visiting Dharavi later in the course to discover the incredible entrepreneurship and innovation that occurs there, and why the 2008 film Slumdog Millionaire got so much wrong about the place. The next most important thing to appreciate about India is its demographics. Whereas the West, America, Europe, Japan, and even China, have aging populations, the number of young people in India is increasing. By 2020, India will be the youngest country in the world, with 2/3 of its population of working age. India's share of the working age population is going to remain sort of 18–19% of the total, but by comparison, China's is declining from 22% to less than 14% over the coming years. Having such a young population presents both opportunity and challenges. Some pessimists, for example, fear a demographic disaster if not enough jobs are created, whilst some optimists predict a demographic dividend for India, with lots of young people earning a living, consuming and paying taxes with fewer dependents than other societies. Within a working age population, those who are college educated tend to obviously be the most economically productive and certainly the most skilled with respect to higher income jobs and innovation, R&D, etc. In 1990, the US had 35 million graduates of working age, by far the largest in the world. At that time, China had just 17 million and India 16 million. This year, there are actually about the same number of students enrolled in the US, Chinese, and Indian higher education systems. But according to the World Bank predictions, by 2030, India will have 117 million graduates of working age, China 97 million, and America 85 million. This is due to supply side increase in terms of capacity. India has 900 universities and more are being opened every week, and 40,000 colleges, many of which are run by the private sector as well as on the public government funded side. On the demand side, it's driven by India's young population and the ability of the government to invest in expanding the public system and more families being able to afford and wanting to pay for private higher education too. By 2050, the US is projected to have 118 million graduates of working age, China 138 million, but India a phenomenal 208 million. So India is going to have nearly double the number of graduates as the US and 70 million more than China. Young Indians, therefore, represent the most significant human capital on the planet. Given this potential, one of the key questions that we need to explore is whether young Indians are going to have access to the kind of education, knowledge, and the ability to develop the 21st century skills that they're going to need to thrive. We'll talk more about this in our next section.